watching closely.
With that as the first line after 56 seconds of silence, you'd think there's no way anyone could still get tricked, and yet... Well, I did. Speak for yourself. But also the trick is only half the story.
Called the pledge. The magician shows you something ordinary. Deck of cards, a bird, or a man.
Or a hat.
Making something disappear isn't enough. You have to bring it back.
I feel like I'm going to say this a couple times, but there's the movie. The entire movie is one big magic trick. We're currently in the pledge. And one of the greatest things about this movie is the number of misdirections. I know, after the first viewing, it feels so dang obvious, but Nolan is already toying with our perceptions and making us try to predict things. We don't see Angier drown, it fades out, so we assume that Nolan wants us to think we're not seeing everything, and we already suspect that he's still alive. But it's so much more complicated. Well, hey, there's Fallon for the first time. Okay, again, I haven't spoiled anything yet, so if you haven't seen this movie, you should watch it, because I'm about to spoil the entire thing. Okay? Ready? Borden is Angier's son. No, just kidding. Alfred Borden is twins, and genuinely, the person Borden is both twins, as is Fallon. They take turns. Neither of them technically exist as one person, which is a mind bender by itself. And the movie does a decent job of keeping Fallon's face hidden while not drawing attention to the fact that they're keeping his face hidden. But I also don't know if this movie would even be possible today. Not with Christian Bale, at least. Maybe you were a Newsies or Swing Kids fanatic, you've probably seen American Psycho, and Bale had just played Batman, but he was younger in the first couple, and basically wore a mask in the other two, so for me, I didn't notice it was him in makeup and prosthetics. At least, I don't think so. 2006 was definitely my guessing the ending phase, so I know I figured it out, but I also remember being surprised at some point. So with these first few glimpses at Fallon, I had no clue. Goodness, Nolan. Sometimes I think you make movies exclusively to go to places like this and film them.
You're the great Anton.
Speaking of people I did not recognize in 2006, it's crazy how long we slept on Andy Serkis as just the mocap monkey golem guy, and it took Age of Ultron for the general population to recognize his talent and the Batman to really solidify him.
I brought a lot of money.
And our first hints that not all is as it seems with Angier. Poor magicians don't usually say things like that. But Nolan gets to play it loosey-goosey because his timeline is funky.
Telegram didn't indicate how long you'd be staying with us.
As long as it takes.
I'll be staying at the hotel. Indefinitely.
We were two young men at the start of a great career. Two young men devoted to an illusion.
Unreliable narrator and cinematographer showing us Angier when Borden is actually talking about his twin. All these quick inserts letting us know the high risk and also making the movie lovers aware of what's being set up while making them squirm. And who better to magician it up than Ricky Jay?
No one else could do my trick. Any trick can be duplicated.
I know I already kind of said it, but this is what I love about Nolan. That's it right there. That's the movie. Those are our characters revealed. Borden has a trick that he came up with that can't be duplicated because he hides that he's twins from the public. Angier, coming from a place of privilege and family money,
Promised my family I wouldn't embarrass them with my theatrical endeavors.
doesn't believe there are any tricks that can't be duplicated, and so he throws money at it until he literally reinvents the wheel to win.
Some nights, you just don't get it, do you?
And our first hint that Borden has two halves.
Total devotion to his art. Utter self-sacrifice.
And I think my favorite thing about The Prestige is how in-your-face telegraphed the twist is. So much so that I don't want to keep saying the same thing over and over again, and we're gonna do a duh counter. In this case, we should 100% know that whatever Borden's trick is, the true act takes place off the stage.
It's the only way to escape all this.
Also, he does escape all this, just probably not the way he'd intended.
Borden saw it at once, but I couldn't fathom it.
Exactly. Also, Hugh Jackman's workout routine.
But where's his brother?
Dang, that look on Borden's face, like he just saw his entire future unraveled by an 8-year-old.
You're the lucky one today.
No one cares about the bird under the table. Seriously, Lucas used to talk about things rhyming, but Nolan is the king. I can think of someone else who has two heads. It's Borden.
So I'll see you again.
Milk and sugar.
Love that he's out of breath. Not trying to hide that he just sprinted around the building. And no, I don't think his brother was here for this. They have more than one talent. Stop typing that. I have to give Nolan credit for taking stage magician and adding a level of stakes I never anticipated. Not so fun fact, CPR wouldn't be invented for another 70 years in case you're wondering why Angier is just slapping her face. Yeah, that would stick with you. The twitch. Ugh, so brutal.
Shoot me here! Oh!
Ah, the 1890s, when people just willy-nilly fired guns at or near each other in the same rooms where their landlords could forbid them from having male guests.
I scandalise the landlord, I think not. But I can't raise a child on my own.
Woof.
Bullet catch.
Yeah, but it's safe. I promise.
Well, tell me how you do it.
No, I can't do that.
Well, then you can't do it. Alfred's...
I can't do it.
Once you know, it's actually very obvious.
Well, I mean, you still get... It's dangerous. I mean, People still get killed, though. I mean, God forbid, Sarah. Somebody could put a bullet down there.
If that isn't the most guy thing I've ever witnessed. She's like, don't do it, it's dangerous. And he's like, no, it's fine, and here's why. And so she goes, okay. And he's all, well, be a little worried. LOL. LMAO even.
I love you.
Well, some days it's not true, and today you don't mean it. The days it is true mean something.
I have two feelings about this. One is that Borden is such an amazing magician, so committed to his act that both twins pretend to be Sarah's husband, and although she suspects something, it takes her a long time to realize the truth, if she ever does at all. And the second is that it must be hard for them to know that they're not that good. And just as Sarah says, the fact that she can tell the difference means that one of them is truly in love with her.
Maybe today you're more in love with magic than me.
That's literally the case. The twin that doesn't love her loves magic so much that he's willing to pretend. Oh, and also the twin dressed as Fallon is likely the father and didn't get to hear the news from Sarah, so he really loves magic.
We should have told Fallon.
I mean, to be fair, he is awful at it. No showmanship, which is a theme going forward. Jean Valjean? That's why Fallon didn't recognize him. I actually like the implication that a man with disguises on his mind at all times didn't notice Angier because he's so broken he's unrecognizable. Again, 1890s. Yike.
The other half convinced that I tied the leg for double. I could never know for sure.
And it truly doesn't matter. It's further continuity that Angier may have always been asking the twin that was Fallon that night, and it's also possible that the twin who tied the knot never told Fallon as a way to not really know himself. But we can know. He definitely tied the length for double. It's not a real knot, but here's the knot he ties the first time. Notice her wrists are together, and here's the knot from the night she died. The knot is between her wrists. I mean, we see him untie the original knot because Julia nods that he should tie the LD.
Easy again. It's as bad as the day it happened.
In hindsight, this one is hard to reconcile with not figuring it out. But I know lots of people didn't. Hats off, Nolan. Also talk about commitment to your job.
The great Danton.
Aww.
I've thought of a name for you. The Great Danton.
I don't want to kill doves.
Then stay off the stage.
Again, I'm somewhat convinced that Nolan could do a movie about a data entry internship and raise the stakes to 11.
You're a magician, not a wizard. You've got to get your hands dirty if you're going to achieve the impossible.
So much information in that line. He does actually become a wizard by Cutter's definition, but it leads to him getting his hands way dirtier than killing a few birds. Nolan gets both the setup and explanation of the trick and the first attempt in one scene, so we waste no time getting to the brutal fail.
Fingers crossed.
Ha! The volunteer lady must have heard you. So, in all the years that I've watched this movie, this is the first time I noticed that Borden absolutely sabotages the trick. Not just by freaking Angier out like I always thought, but he pulls at the cage, making it malfunction, and it actually makes me like their rivalry a little bit more. Also brutal. Also, chronologically in the movie, this is the third time that they've snuck on stage with each other. This movie should have been called Spy vs. Spy. I have always noticed that Angier holds his hands like that as if he's missing the same two fingers as Borden, like trying to get into his mind.
Real magic.
Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. But also, yes, a magic later. So I think the reactions are pretty reasonable, but fun fact, when trains started going faster, people were worried that the human body couldn't withstand such speeds. They thought people might go deaf, have a softening of the brain and spine because, obviously, epileptic seizures. I've also always heard asphyxiation, even though I couldn't find anything to back it up this time. But of course they did. Who would want to go 20 miles per hour?
The family life that he craves, one minute he rails against the next. His mind is a divided one.
Get your attention. Ask, are you watching closely?
Love how often the magicians tell their marks that they're about to trick them and it still works. Goodness, now that's an entrance.
But have you considered the cost?
David Bowie as the eccentric inventor is one of the best castings in all of history.
Was it good?
It was the greatest magic trick I've ever seen.
My gosh, this moment. Nolan can create a feeling. The way the score builds and builds, like we're about to see Edward Norton do something with a crystal ball. I don't know, I can't remember. But it borders on being ominous, and then it just cuts, and we don't even see the illusion. Ist.
He uses a double.
And you have to love that Cutter was 100% correct.
He wears padded gloves to hide his damaged fingers.
Genius misdirection for us as well as the in-universe audience. It may very well be the average familiarity phenomenon XKCD talked about. He's such an accomplished magician he assumed the entire audience is looking for the glove the way Olivia noticed, but 99% of them are still wondering what's special about the ball. Having Jackman play the role of his double is another huge duh moment, but allows us to think maybe we've solved it when we still don't know the whole truth.
He could be your brother. I need him to be me.
You mustn't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling. You can have both.
I'd rather be him for now.
Same. Love Love that you can just hear the trapdoor.
Man who goes into the box.
Into the box, into the cage, it's all coming together if you remember the opening of the movie, but Nolan still gets us thinking he's leading us to the wrong conclusion.
I used a double. He had complete power over me.
I mean, that's not totally false. Honesty. Creator collab! Love the way Borden plays it off like it was all planned. This would have been an amazing show to be at.
Makeup, glasses, wigs.
Gosh, glasses? Borden never wears glasses.
That's who he is. That's what it takes. He lives. He's acts.
It's crazy to be 100% correct and still be wrong because he didn't really understand it. And even though he does end up sacrificing a lot, he couldn't fathom the sacrifice that Borden put in.
I don't care about my wife. I care about his secret.
Yikes. And here I thought Aronofsky had the corner on movies about obsession ruining your life. Angier's on the road to turning into a tree. I love that the entire reason Angier went to Tesla is because Borden saw Tesla's expo and Olivia convinced him to up his showmanship. It's all just for show to add to his trick. Nolan just doesn't do simple. Angier followed Borden, knowing that Fallon would follow him and set a trap. But Borden knew Angier would go to insane lengths to get the keyword, which was a trick by itself, so it wouldn't seem like he was giving it up too easily.
And then someone will come along and dig me up.
It stands to reason that after being buried alive as Fallon, you'd want to be someone else for the night. Also, he may be hoarse from yelling while underground.
Champagne, your finest.
The interesting line is this one.
Something very precious had been lost to me.
So the obvious answer is that he's not the one that was buried and almost lost his brother. But I think not. So he could be talking about his life, but I actually think in a weird, twisted two men sharing one life kind of way, he was saying he'd lose the act. Even though he'd be dead, the transported man would be impossible.
Stop performing.
That look that so clearly says I can't.
They work for Thomas Edison.
Ha! So that was Edison's guy yelling at the expo.
No, that's what he told me to tell you.
On a second watch, you can see this slight face change before the scene ends.
She must help me rid ourselves of Angier.
See, if Angier had Julia's ritual of reading books, this never would have happened. She never reads a book without reading the last page first. I knew there was a reason for it.
Yes, Angier. She gave you this notebook at my request.
Ha, damn, what a burn. The first of many painful twists. And this isn't even a secret. We've already seen the hats, but did you remember? Were you watching closely? Nolan opened the movie showing us the prestige items from the hat transportation. He even told us it was on screen.
Are we going to visit this? But you promised.
I promised, did I?
Well, maybe not you specifically.
So I thought you could take her.
Such a weird request until you realize he'd take her as Borden.
Sarah, she knows. At least she knows that something's not right.
Love it. Because of the affair, not because she only gets half a person for her entire life. The face distortion effect is a fantastic touch to make you feel otherworldly.
Yes, you, Borden. Sitting there in your cell.
This is another one of those, what? You did the same thing to him that he did to you and he didn't expect it? But Angier is dead as far as Borden is concerned, so it wasn't even a possibility.
Do you love me?
Not today.
And as heartbreaking as it is, this is Borden's way of admitting what Sarah suspects, which clearly isn't enough for her. Wow, that's awful, and the cut from her touching the rope to the sound is so abrupt. Aw, got him with the friendship callback.
The sort that Borden can't ignore.
And of all the tricks they played on each other, doing all of this just to frame Borden is a special kind of crazy.
Give them enough reason to doubt it.
The fact that he recognizes it for what it is really nails home what's going on. It's sort of affirmation that Angier has gone too far. There's a fun little theory that the Sarah-loving twin has this little scar on his eye and the Olivia-loving one doesn't, and it's just not true. They both have it because Christian Bale has it in this movie. It's just hard to see in every scene, plus he's often wearing makeup that thickens his eyebrows. Point is, as far as I can tell, there are no visual clues.
Could be in some other restaurant with some other woman right now, talking about me.
He could, and he would. That's part of the problem. At this point, we know how Angier's transported man is done, but it's still very satisfying to see Borden notice the trapdoor immediately.
Man's reach exceeds his imagination.
I mean, it's a killer prestige, but you might have taken the wrong lesson from Tesla.
Man's reach exceeds his grasp.
It wasn't a challenge, it was a warning.
He uses a trapdoor. Why can't you outthink him?
There isn't much evidence for it, but I like to believe that one of the twins was really more of the engineer and the other was the performer, which is why Borden is yelling at Fallon. It could just have easily been Fallon yelling at Borden if it was his turn.
Totally. Yes, I am. I always have been.
Hugh Jackman with a British accent is the real twist, but it's also funny that he was living this double life but couldn't see beyond his own need for Borden's trick to be something more.
And I win.
And look, we've come down hard on games and sports that have serious real-life consequences, but this movie isn't really about the game or the occupations. They're both insane. They're both obsessive and self-sabotaging, putting the act ahead of everything and everyone else. So yeah, in this moment it's Angier that sounds bananas, but he's not alone.
Where's the bloody key?
I'll give Borden a slight edge because he did want to save Angier's life.
Go alone now, both of us.
This goodbye becomes even more heart-wrenching once you know the truth, because they weren't just friends. Going it alone isn't just a figure of speech. They literally did everything together. It would truly be like losing half of your soul.
Should have left him to his damn trip.
And we're so close now. Nolan is giving up the ghost. It wasn't too long ago, and we should all remember that it was Borden who told Fallon to leave Angier alone.
Both of us, just leave him alone.
And he bounces his ball one more time for the pledge of the trick. Now he throws it again for the prestige, where he reappears.
I once told you about a sailor who described drowning to me. I was lying. He said it was agony.
That's brutal. And as far as last words go, those are pretty on point. Also, he's doing a magic trick that only Angier and Cutter get to see the prestige for. But everything truly comes full circle, and both Borden and Angier have lost so much. Angier's wife drowned, as did a dumpster full of Angier's. Borden's wife died by hanging, as did half of Borden. And Angier shot Borden, and Borden shot him back.
That's weird.
Finally, you have not been watching closely. I figured it out like years ago.
We were both Fallon. And we were both Borden.
Which is honestly the biggest twist of all, that they switched and one of them wasn't just always Fallon. And let's call that devotion?
No, wait, I'm not...
I'm not the clone, I assume, because that's the thing. Neither would think they were the clone, ever. But because only one survives, no way for the other one to know that. Imagine hating the idea of a brother that much.
It took courage to climb into that machine every night, not knowing if I'd be the man in the box.
Okay, this is the only thing that's always bothered me about this movie, because it's always you. If you do the trick again, it's you. The man who walks into the machine falls through the floor. It's insane to think there is any other option. But because the man who lives also remembers stepping into the box, Angier takes it for granted. But he's without a doubt a clone of a clone of a clone, possibly the 100th clone if he did 100 shows. Now, I'll cut him some slack because Angier hasn't seen a lot of movies about cloning, and maybe he thinks the clone is put back on the platform, but it must make him wonder, since the first time he did it, the man on the platform shot the other guy. I also think that deep down he knew the truth. He takes his ring off for a reason. Comeuppance? Nah, I don't feel good about that. Let's say consequences. Finally, Bruce is free and Alfred can be happy.
You want to be fooled.
And what a line to end on. It really speaks to my duh counter that it seems so obvious, but we want to be fooled. I also feel like the duh counter probably felt like I was coming down hard, but it's meant to be a good thing. The point is that Nolan didn't cheat. You have to remember that for most of the movie, we assume all of the magic was just tricks. And then, all of a sudden, magic is real, and we have to wonder what Borden is really doing. The fact that it was simple all along is part of what makes the twist so good. And Radiohead is always a win. Memento still might be my favorite because it was my first Nolan movie, but The Prestige is up there. I don't know, it's kind of silly. Insomnia is fine, good even. To me, the others are all masterpieces or borderline masterpieces. Not because they're all perfect, flawless movies, but because there isn't one I would turn off if it came on. Even if the subject matter seems trite, like a businessman con job but dreams, or confusing time direction stuff I need to diagram out to understand, or space, but also confusing time stuff, the truth is that they all still hit me where it matters. Nolan can pull emotions out of me even if I don't think he earned it. But the early ones leave a mark because they're so well crafted and thought out, and I wasn't used to how good Nolan could be. And The Prestige just gets better each time you watch it. The elevator pitch for this movie is two rival magicians trying to one-up each other, leaving the audience wondering how far they'll go to satisfy their obsession. And the answer is all the way. Like I said a few times, Nolan made a pretty dorky thing feel like the weight of the world. And not because it's magicians, but because it's a job. There's no profession, creative or otherwise, that I'd ever put before my family, or like living a full, complete life. If I step back from it, I'm asking Christian Bale how any of it was worth it. Half a life in exchange for a few hours on a stage every week? But when I'm with them, I believe it because they make me believe it. And a big part of that is because the movie isn't really about magic. It's a personality study of two men and the consequences of messing with someone you don't fully understand. I mean, I had a win about it, but the entire movie is them out-terribling the other and escalating until literally 2 out of 3 are dead. So you could say the message is obsession bad? Yeah, that works. Is there a good guy and a bad guy? I guess so. Framing someone for murder that's not technically a murder and definitely wasn't their fault is pretty bad. Borden manslaughtered Julia, broke this lady's fingers, and, well, killed Angier. You could say it was to save his daughter, but don't tell me he didn't revel in it a bit. And although it's easy to blame Borden for sending Angier on the hunt for Tesla, Angier was never going to be satisfied until he found a way to be in the Prestige. That's one of the main differences between Borden and Angier. Borden was always taking turns, and Angier would rather murder himself than miss. Look on their faces. They both sacrifice so much, but there's selfishness and callousness to Angier's version. In contrast, the Borden's version had selflessness built in, albeit ultimately harmful to those they loved. So again, no one won, that's for sure. Jess ended up with either her father or uncle. I lean towards father since Borden said he was the twin who loved Sarah, but you never know. Cutter cleared his conscience mostly. I guess Olivia won, she got out of there. This isn't to say that they're both despicable men. Or maybe it is, and they are, but somehow it doesn't diminish my love for this film. It's engaging to watch them both go down this path, Angier in particular jumping from one obsession to the next. First it was to know which knot Borden tied and to avenge his wife, then it was to know the secret of Borden's transported man, and then it became simply destroying Borden's life and taking everything from him. Each consumed him and eventually led to his death. And I can already feel y'all commenting that Borden wasn't a bad guy, especially compared to Angier, and you're right. But also, he pushed Olivia and Sarah away with his obsession to be remembered, and there's no way he was giving his daughter the love and attention she needed and deserved. Realizing how many terrible things happen in this movie, it's a wonder I keep coming back to it, but I guess that says a lot about Nolan, as well as Jackman and Bale. Rebecca Hall as well, I mean, she really crushed me towards the end. Everyone is at the top of their game in this movie, and I really wouldn't change a thing. It is a great movie. Right, so this week was going to be that new video about Ted Lasso, but it's taken a little bit longer, so rather than rush it, it'll be next week. Thanks for your patience.
As a man, I'm flesh and blood. I can be ignored, I can be destroyed, but as a symbol, I can be incorruptible. I can be everlasting. Something elemental, something terrifying.